Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. And today we're going to ask, should everybody scream? Everybody scream! Let's get to a review of Marvel Snap's new Spotlight card. But first, we have to do a last chance review of Marvel Snap's last Spotlight card, Scarlet Spider. Scarlet Spider is a 4/5 with the ability Activate. Add an exact clone of this to another location, and Scarlet Spider has been a massive disappointment. This has not been a very good card. Just so you know, if you want multiple decks for him, I have another deck. This is the second video we've done today, the full deck guide video with top 10 decks in Marvel Snap. Decks that are currently in the top 10 Marvel Snap happened this morning. We had a Scarlet Spider list there. That's my favorite list. We're going to look at another Scarlet Spider list where he's pretty good. He's completely freaking replaceable in every single one of these lists. This is just not a card you need to own. Please save your Spotlight caches. It's possible that he's meta eventually, that he either gets buffed or they do something to the meta where he becomes a really good card, but 5 power is just not a lot. 5 power that you can't control where it goes isn't usually worth it. Skip this card. This is a deck that attempts to make Scarlet Spider more than 5 power. The way it's trying to work is it's trying to sort of go over the top with a bunch of different buffs, and using all those buffs, put down a bunch of big and powerful cards. All good? Great. You can find Safety Blade playing this list at twitch.tv/SafetyBlade, where he has a version of this list that honestly doesn't run this card. That's probably better. We actually covered that one in Friday's video. But if you do have Scarlet Spider and want to play him, this is the kind of deck you're looking at. This list is also reasonably expensive. You need all the high series stuff but Aranya. Aranya can be Nico Minoru, Jeff, Sage, or Wolfsbane. You need Zabu. You need Sebastian Shaw, because he's honestly just a better target than Scarlet Spider for the buffs. You need Namora. You need Gwenpool. No question about those. All right, so turn 1, you want Aranya over Nightcrawler. Turn 2, Zabu or Psylocke. You can also Forge into Shaw, or you can drop one of your ones. Turn 3, if you can Wong, you want a Wong. That's better than Gwenpool, which is better than Forge into Shaw, which is more or less equal to an early Scarlet Spider or Ironheart. Turn 4 is the same exact thing as 3. Turn 5, you want to play either Namora, or if you went Gwenpool on turn 4, right? You can end up just playing like a Sebastian Shaw here and a bunch of buff cards. And then turn 6 is Odin or other buffed cards. And that's it. This is really simple. It's super straightforward. It's hard to get that Namora off in a junk meta though, which means that a reasonably often amount of the time, you're going Wong into Gwenpool and hoping you hit enough other stuff to do things. The reason that's so difficult with Scarlet Spider though is you need to get Scarlet Spider out on 5, right? You cannot play it later than 5. So if you go Wong into Gwenpool and you get a nice big Scarlet Spider, you can play that nice big Scarlet Spider into Sebastian Shaw and like try and win that way. But I don't know. It's just, this is really, really shaky. I don't like this card at all. Hey, if you're willing to hit that sub button, we'd really appreciate it. We've got we're almost at 14,000 subs. Our goal by the end of the year was to hit 15,000. Still to hit 15,000. If you could help us get there, that would be absolutely amazing. We need your support in order to get there. A like and a comment also help the YouTube algorithm show this to more people, which also helps us get there. We do 7 days a week of videos. This week, we're doing 9 full-length Marvel Snap videos at least. So if you think there's value in that, you think there's value in getting the best decks in the game from top 100 players, from some of the biggest and best names in the game, then hit that sub button. In addition, we're giving away 5 season passes for Marvel Snap's Agent Venom, the card that comes out tomorrow. We reviewed that card yesterday. You can check out that video if you want, but Agent Venom comes out and we're giving away 5 season passes. If you sub and you comment, I'm going to ask a question later in this video. You answer that question in a comment as long as you're subbed. Someone who commented on this video will win the season pass. We're doing that for every video this week. Today is Monday, but we're doing Sunday to Friday. So all you have to do is watch the videos. You can watch yesterday's videos too. And if you leave a sub and you comment on those videos whenever the question is asked, you are entered to win a season pass. All right, Scream. Scream comes out on 10/1. She is Series 5, 6,000 tokens, a 2/2. When an enemy card moves, steal 2 power from it once per turn. It's possible that this kills move. It's possible that move just runs for 1 against this and doesn't really care. This should, if it is any good, absolutely destroy the use of Werewolf and several other cards. Like a Human Torch without an extra buff just stays at 2 from this. Werewolf will just be giving away power. You have to move Werewolf like 2 or 3 times per turn. 3 times per turn to really get ahead. Scream just seems absolutely incredible at shutting down a lot of what the meta is doing right now. There's a Werewolf deck ranked number 2 right now. Bounces all over the place in the top decks. Scream says no. In addition, once you buy Scream, right after you buy Scream, that little variant in the bottom of your screen is the variant that will appear in your shop the next day. I like that one a lot, so I get every card. I'm a content creator. I have to be able to review them for you. So I get every card. I will be getting Scream. That doesn't mean you should get Scream. We're going to give you all that information about whether you should get Scream going forward. The other cards this week, and we're going to review both of them before the end of the video, are Mobius and Man-Thing, and these are the variants that you would get if you were opening and already own them. I do like the Scream Spotlight variant, but I don't really need the Man-Thing or the Mobius. I have both Jet Ski Mobius, and I have Hit Mobius, and I have Venomized Man-Thing, and I have Hit Man-Thing, so I don't really need either of these. So I'm not going to get Spotlight Scream, which means the Scream variant I will use is the bottom right one on this screen. All right. Potential 210 or 218 in stats to if you can get a move every turn after it's played. So let's say you play this on 2, you get an opponent move on 3, 4, 5, and 6. That puts this to 210. However, your opponent's also losing 8 power if it moves, so that's a 218. This is huge power. You don't want to rely on opponents moving things, though, so you can use your own stuff to move opponents. Juggernaut, Magneto, Cannonball, Stegron, Polaris, and Spider-Man all make sense here as ways to get extra power. And since you're moving opponent stuff, very likely with this, Kingpin and Kraven make a lot of sense too. This should eat the face-off move decks. They should just be retreating this and you play this card. So if you see your opponent drop like an Aranya and you have this card, I think that's like a snap condition in and of itself. Werewolf, Vulture, Multiple Man, Phoenix Force, Torch, only Dagger really survives, I think. The only card that can survive this is Dagger. I think this is just a great tech card for when Move is good. And right now, I think Move is the best deck in the game. Again, check the deck at the start of this video. Madam Web in just general good stuff decks really is hurt by this. I don't think you want to play this without running some Clog or some Move, but if you can run even a little bit of it, like let's say you get this to be a 2-6 consistently, just running a couple move cards, I think that's probably worth it. All right, moving stuff with a bit of junk seems really strong too, because you should be able to clog your opponent up if you can move your opponent's stuff. So White Widow, Debris, Viper, and so on are probably good. So we're going to only do 3 decks for this card, but we're going to do a full deck guide for one of them, because I don't think this is a card that wants to be in a million homes, but in the homes it's in, I think it's going to be really good. The first of these, I've talked about this deck several times. I actually did a full deck guide to this in Friday's video, the 10 decks to play after the OTA. This is where I'm starting. I think this list is going to be super fun. I'm planning on adding White Widow. That's the only change I'm making. I'm making Quake be White Widow. I'm pretty sure. It might be Jeff, but I'm pretty sure it's Quake. And then I'm just going to say I can grow stuff. I can grow a Kraven. I can kill stuff with Kingpin. I can get Scream. If the opponent doesn't have Luke, I feel like I have a really good shot at just absolutely wrecking their lives with this deck. Stegron, Spider-Man, Polaris. I should be able to really just move enough, make myself a 20 power Scream. I should be able to clog 18 power Scream. I should be able to clog the opponent relatively easily with my other cards, and then Cannonball should win me the game. That's my current plan here. If Cannonball cannot win the game, I should be able to win with a Juggernaut, but I can also Juggernaut around turn 4. If they're starting to get clogged and I know that they have to play in a specific place, a turn 4 or turn 5 Juggernaut can just lock up the board for me. Next up, we have Clog Move. This is a take on the current Clog move list that's been around. I just basically figured Scream should be in this, right? If Scream is not going to be ever else in the meta, I can win mirrors through Scream with this deck. I can get Scream out and Madam Web, and then if my opponent does anything, I win. I threw an extra Polaris and Stegron in here because they are the easy, and Cannonball's already here, because these are the easiest Clog. These are the easiest, Clog move cards. Where if I just go Scream into White Widow into Polaris into Stegron, I feel like my opponent's probably clogged. Stegron, Polaris, whatever order I decide to do that in, especially with Titania, and then I've probably won because I've got this stupidly huge Scream and I've got Cannonball. That's my working theory here. Scream is worst case a 2/2. There's going to be games where she's not great here. But even if she's a 2/4 that operates as a 2/6, unless your opponent has Cannonball, 2/6 is stellar stats. You are not set to play a 2/6. That's what really makes me excited about this card. With one move, this is a good card. With more than that, all right, next up we have Junk Clog, and Sizer says I need more cheap stuff. Sizer is one of the top players that I talk to all the time. He says I need more cheap stuff here, so we might be adding a Daredevil in this list, but as the case may be, this is what we're doing a full guide for. This is my brew as far as what I'm going to do. This one goes a little more all in on the move stuff than the previous list. Juggernaut is again a potential end of turn play, but does not have to be, and could easily be a Spider-Man instead. But my basic plan here is I can clog you, and then I should have enough power to win. I've got, again, to Polaris and Stegron, this time with Juggernaut, and I should be able to basically say I win here. So you need Cannonball, White Widow, and Scream. Nebula can be Daredevil or Kate Bishop. Juggernaut might be better as one of those two as well. Kate Bishop gives you just an extra jump card. So turn 1 is Nebula Blind, turn 2 is Scream over White Widow. Turn 3 is Goblin or Debris. Turn 4 is Polaris, Juggernaut, Stegron, or Doc Ock to clog. If you go Polaris or Juggernaut, you can do them with Titania to clog. Yeah, okay. Turn 5 is a 3 or 4 with Widow, or you can play Dr. Octopus and Titania. That's my general plan here. Ock and Titania on 5. And then turn 6 is Cannonball to win. That's it. This should be really, really simple. I think that this is going to be a very powerful deck. Assuming the meta doesn't change too much, this should have a wonderful time beating the crap out of a lot of decks that think that they're otherwise set up and safe because Polaris and Stegron together just seem really mean. And if I just hit those two cards, right? I don't hit Juggernaut. If I just hit Polaris and Stegron, I've now got a 4/6 power, which is a 2/10 worth of stats, which should be enough to win, especially in a game that I'm clogging the opponent. I love this. I'm excited. Let's go. I hope I'm right about this card. All right, so my Season Pass question, if you want to win that Season Pass card, Agent Venom, again, winners will be announced on Friday. Will Move survive first contact with Scream? Does Move live in a Scream meta? Will Scream be meta? That's my question of the day for you. We're going to do a full review of Scream before the end of the video. But that's coming later. We have to talk about the other spotlight cards because they matter in determining whether we should open this. If you'd like to see gameplay for Scream decks, tomorrow, check out the great Prashaun. Prashaun will be playing these decks at 12 Eastern on his stream. Gregor2424 should have a video of this, is streaming. I don't know if he's still streaming, but streamed this morning's decks earlier today, and we'll have a video of those up tomorrow. Mobius is a 3/3. Series 4, 3,000 tokens, ongoing. Your cost can't be increased. Your opponent's cost can't be reduced. That's nice, right? That's really useful. There's a lot of utility to it for things like Iceman, things like Icebox, Dream Dimension, so on. It stops opponent She-Hulks. It's a very powerful card. It's harder to use offensively than it was, but it is still a very powerful card. It's a tech card, and tech cards are things you always want in your collection. So this is a card you would like in your collection. So Prodigy's Firestarter is the first Mobius deck we're going to look at. The only way to currently offensively use Mobius, really, because there's a lot of decks that are like Move and Hell and stuff that Mobius doesn't do anything against, is to play it with Pixie. When you go Pixie and then Mobius, you always get the more beneficial cost. You always get the cheaper cost of the cards unless your opponent also has Mobius, and that's obviously extremely valuable. Thus, Mobius in this deck from Prodigy, that I think makes a lot of sense as a way to say, if I can get Infinite or She-Hulk cheaper and play them with literally anything else, I'm going to town and going to win that game. Basic gist of this one. Really, really cool deck. Then we have Mr. LA's War Picks. This is my favorite Pixie deck, Pixie Mobius deck. I really think it's a blast to play. It's very powerful. It again can go Annihilus, Cersei, Sentry game plans, or it can go Infinite game plans. There's a lot of clog in the meta, and I think there's about to be more with Scream, so I think Annihilus and Cersei are both in a really good place right now. And again, Mobius makes your Pixie gameplay work. The only other home for it is decks that run a lot of tech right now. This is a Sarah list that our friend Buddy came up with. You just want a Mobius on 3 here, or Ghost on 3. Has just a powerful play to mess up any shenanigans your opponent has. And from there, you if you have Zabu on 2, you can then re-trigger with Symbiote Spider-Man on turn 5 as you play Sarah. Or you can play Symbiote Spider-Man on 4, and then you can Zabu and Symbiote Spider play Zabu and trigger Symbiote Spider-Man on him on 5 to get your force to 2 either way at the end of the game, which is obviously a very strong thing to do. And then you have cheap stuff. Your opponent doesn't have cheap stuff, and you should be able to find a way to win with your tech cards, assuming you effectively threw Prio. And if you couldn't, hey, that's what Ghost is here for. Get it? Got it? Good. These are the Mobius lists. I don't. These are fun lists, but unless you have Pixie, this isn't super exciting. It's a nice card to have, but not exciting right now. Man-Thing is a 4/7, ongoing, 1, 2, and 3 cost cards here have -2 power. Man-Thing is currently one of my favorite cards in the game. He's extremely powerful, completely useless against Luke Cage, right? Just decent stats against Luke Cage, but he's almost always a 4/11 and fairly often a 4/13 when you play him. He completely swings lanes that seem unlosable. An opponent I was playing had a 16 power Vulture. Would have been a 15, but I played Hazmat, would have had a 16 power Vulture in a completely untouchable lane. And I just, in a Cosmode untouchable lane, I just dropped Man-Thing. And all of a sudden, it was a lane that I was winning. I dropped Man-Thing and Abomination. And I was ahead in the lane that the opponent had clearly thought was locked up. And I was able to still drop something else somewhere else to win. Man-Thing is stellar. Like, just really, really great card, but it is a Series 4 card, which means this is a card that you can get relatively cheaply. However, it's very, very good. All right, so the first Man-Thing deck we're going to look at is our friend Snap Variants, who you can check out on Twitter at Snap Variants. Warmongering, I think this is a really cool list. Man-Thing goes in a few ongoing shells because Luke is ongoing, US Agent's ongoing, Man-Thing's ongoing. It just gives you an extra way to win. Jean Grey can let you know where to US Agent or Man-Thing with very, very high accuracy, and you can just basically lock down the game. War Machine fits in here because that gives you access to Ebony Maw, which is the one drop this deck has kind of always wanted, which means you can end games by going Ebony Maw and Claw, and that's an extremely, extremely powerful thing to do. But yeah, you need Man-Thing if you're going to play this list. Man-Thing lists tend to only exist with Man-Thing. Andre Var won 2 tournaments, 150 person, 160 person with this basic deck that runs, you guessed it, Man-Thing. The basic idea here is if you can trigger Wiccan, you can go Man-Thing and 3 on the next turn. You might notice that Luke Cage is a 3. That seems convenient. So that's obviously a game-winning play. You can also play it with Nocturne or Copycat, depending on whatever else you need. You can also play Man-Thing with US Agent that late, which is very, very strong. It's just a lot of ways to win with this, right? You also have the Ajax Hazmat thing. This deck dies to Luke Cage, but it has a ton of play into absolutely everything else. Again, I think this is one of the stronger decks in Marvel Snap. If you're really worried about Luke Cage, add yourself a Rogue. Unless they happen to discard Luke Cage, Hella decks are very often just dropping Luke Cage. You can Rogue them off, and then you have a really, really solid matchup into it. Copycat is fine there. I think that this is an awesome, awesome, awesome list. And again, doesn't exist without Man-Thing, because if you don't get Wiccan, Man-Thing is like your key. Because you don't get Wiccan, you Man-Thing, you can still win off Man-Thing and Ajax. Or you go Man-Thing, then you go Ajax, then you go Shang Hazmat, and you can still win the game. All right. Next up, we have Toxic Evo. This is the last Man-Thing list. This is currently one of the top 10 lists in the game. Like, easily. If you would like to hear the top 10 lists in the game, we did a podcast with Den, the head writer at Marvel Snap Zone, where we went over like 20 decks to come up with the top 10 of the game. It's a long podcast. It came out yesterday. Please check it out if you're interested. But this is Toxic Evo. It is yet another list that absolutely needs Man-Thing. This one has Cyclops, Man-Thing, and Abomination. It doesn't even bother with Luke. It just says, I'm going to make all your stuff so weak, I'm going to go over the top of you and win. Super stellar list. Again, Toxic Evo, way to go with this. Last one, we looked at a different version of Sarah. Here's a Toxic Sarah. This is our friend Dragono's deck. Dragono is a wonderful Twitch streamer who I urge you to check out. The O's are zeros if you want to check them out at twitch.tv/Dragono. I love this list. It's basically Toxic Loki. So you can win just by playing their cards for cheaper, or you can win by saying none of your cards have enough power. By going like Man-Thing, US Agent, you can rogue off their Luke, so on and so forth. Even generating cards, just absolutely, absolutely stellar list. Tons of power to this one. I urge you to check it out. Once more, Man-Thing fully required. So Man-Thing is one of my favorite cards, but not must-have, and a Series 4. Mobius is a tech card, and tech cards are good to own for the right meta, but he's a Series 4. Scream I like a lot. I can see her being meta, but she's new, so she could also be a dud. She's extremely high variance. All right. If you need Mobius and Man-Thing, you're probably safe opening for Scream. You can probably just open both of those cards, and if you get Scream and Scream sucks, getting Mobius and Man-Thing together is probably enough value. If you're only missing Mobius or Man-Thing, I would 100% wait for Scream. So just so you know, here's how we do things on the channel. On Thursday, I ask a bunch of top players, a bunch of top players in the meta about the new card. I get a bunch of, I call them top player impressions. We do a short of it. It's in Thursday's full video. Then Friday, I take those, I look at the stats, and I give you a weekend missions recommendation. That is the soonest I recommend you buy Scream. Good? Unless she's immediately broken tomorrow, and we'll know that quickly. Then I strongly urge you to wait till Friday. By Friday, what we will have is weekend missions, which will involve Scream, and you can get extra tokens back for buying Scream at that point, right? So if you wait until Friday, you can still get the tokens, you don't lose anything before then, and you'll have enough information to start to make a educated guess. However, by Monday, we've had weekend missions, so we have a real sample size. We get a giant sample size. I have top players' thoughts, I have stats, I have a bunch of information. Either Sunday or Monday's video has a last chance review. You saw one at the start of this video for Scarlet Spider. The last chance review has yet to be wrong. The closest we came to being wrong is I leaned no on Cannibal. I said I love this card, but everyone keeps telling me it's bad, so I'm leaning no. And since then, I've just followed my gut, and we've been right by Monday every single time. And that still gives you a few hours at least for weekend missions by Sunday, Monday every single time. So if you can wait, that is the surest way to make sure that you are getting your spotlights or tokens worth out of the card. I don't want you to be misled. I don't want to talk about this once and be like, whoopee. I don't want to pretend that I think this card is great, and then it's terrible later. I don't want to pretend that I think this card is terrible, and then we find out later that it's completely broken. I want the most information possible to give you the best information possible. And we make sure we do that here on the channel. So please wait until at least Friday before opening, unless you need Mobius and Man-Thing. If you need Mobius and Man-Thing and are going to play them at all, like if you have Pixie, if you don't have Pixie, I don't think you need Mobius right now. But if you have Pixie, you need Mobius, and if you need Man-Thing, then open. If not, I think you're better off waiting until later on in the week. I don't know why it says White Widow here. I must have just left that from before. But we get the idea? Cool. Thank you. Questions of the day. There's actually just one. MTL had this big complicated one. So MTL asks how we control for stat distortion as far as win and cube rate for decks. I don't think we need to. So the first thing is only hardcore PC users use trackers. That's true. But that's probably the most useful stats anyway, these hardcore users, right? The hardcore players are very likely going to give you the stats that you most want. But more than that, the PC players are, spoiler alert, playing the non-PC players. There is no separate client for those who play on PC versus those who don't. What that means is we are gathering those stats anyway from non-PC players, right? As long as PC players are wide enough sampling, and they probably are close enough to a wide enough sampling, they will play enough non-PC players, generally speaking, to give us some fairly decent stats. But what about bots? Okay, I don't actually care about pre-infinite stats. Sorry. I stopped checking them basically a week into the season. I checked them the first week because a lot of people are trying to hit infinite in the first couple of weeks. If you would like me to take a look at that, dear viewer, let me know. You can shoot me a message on Discord. I'll happily look through and break down some pre-infinite stats for you. But outside of that, after the first week or two, when most of the people who are like really hardcore grinding are there, right? Like the best decks in high infinite tend to be the best decks in pre-infinite ladder anyway. So I don't know. I don't super concern myself with bots because I'm not really checking pre-infinite. The next question MTL asks is outside of the top 5K, most people lack care about rank. That's possible. I don't think it's 5K. I think it's like the top 50K that people really don't care. Like I've played around 10,000 and seen people really grind for care. I'm going to finish this season 3,000. I finished the last 5 seasons in the top 1,000, ranking 250 in June. Yeah, I think it was June. And then I was top 1,000 the past several seasons. This season was rough, but I was actually top 1,000. I had a death in the family and forgot how to play Marvel Snap for a week. But I don't think that people outside of the top 5K really don't care about rank. I think it's a much smaller sample than that. But even so, on any stat tracker, you can sort to top 5K, to top 1K. You can sort to top 10%. The top 10% right now is, I believe, about the top 6,000 or so players. No, it's the top 9,000 or so players, right? Because I think at this point in the season, around 90 to 100,000 people have hit infinite, which fundamentally means that we can sort for the people who really care. And then the last one, Top Infinite incentivizes early snaps and retreats. I think that's just what good Marvel Snap play incentivizes. Um, I don't think that's Top Ladder doing that. So good Marvel Snap play cares really closely about how many cubes you gain and lose. If you've ever played high level conquest, you should recognize this. Yes. So I think what's incentivized is proper Marvel Snap play. The higher you are in ladder, playing carefully and thoughtfully, and I think that that's where you want to get your stats. I tend to sort by top 10%. I think top 10% is a little more useful early in the season when people are really grinding than when it gets a little smaller, but it's still an extremely useful thing. If you're ever interested in me breaking these down, I do on the $10 Patreon tier. There's an exclusive video once a week where I go through the top 10 decks on all my videos. Like I cover like 50 decks a week. So the top 10 of those, the 10 I think hold up best by the end of the week. And then I look at both my untapped stats and then the top 10% untapped stats, and we break down, look at some decks, take a consideration, and I think it's fairly accurate. If you look at those stats and look at what's featured in the videos, and like the statistics tend to match up with anecdotal knowledge with it, which I think is a really good way to look at things. Now, there's one more caveat here. Cube rates. Cube rates are very, very, very player dependent. I don't think cube rates are an especially useful thing. A thing I hear a lot is enjoy your 2 cubes. If I can get 2 cubes in every win, I'm crushing. Like, absolutely crushing. Like, I don't think people understand how valuable 2 cube wins are. 1 cube wins are sort of pretty valuable in and of themselves, right? Like, that's why the snap and immediate retreat is a couple thing. The fact that it's 100% more each time is huge. And things that win a lot of 8 cubers, like a Mr. Negative deck, can keep up with higher win rate decks. But generally speaking, cube rate is so player specific, right? Like when oh my god, I lost his name in my brain. When the February player who oh my god, I really can't think of his name. This is gonna drive me crazy. I'll find it later. He quit Marvel Snap, and I miss him, and I liked him a lot. But the February first place player finished in first place with Mr. Negative. The win rate wasn't huge. The cube rate was, but a billion people play negative. It was that specific player's ability to play, navigate, snapping, and retreating with it that made that a high enough cube rate deck to finish number 1. Most people would not be able to do that. Even if they had a high cube rate, their cube rate would be like several standard deviations off the level of high it needs to be able to compete at that level with that deck. Which is to say, I don't love looking at cube rate. I consider it, but I think of it much less than win rate, which is, in my opinion, more a function of the deck and the player. And once you get to the top 1,000, you've got mostly good decks and mostly, like the top, 10% infinite, you've got mostly good decks and mostly good players. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense. Feel free to disagree in the comments. I think this is a fairly interesting and not necessarily solved topic. Certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with honor. Thanks. I'm going to say thank you to Abigail Kiesling, a mandatory burnout, regardless, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf. Hey Direwolf, hope you're doing well. LAB, FaThorNewman. Check him out on Twitch and YouTube, please. Good Dog Gamer, such a good dog gamer. Ink, the Graphite Fan. I am Frostman, you sure are. Gene Everett, Corbin, Prime Bright. Corbin has to move to Q-Town. I need to redo this list. That's actually going to be a conversation I need to have on the Patreon. We got to talk about redoing this list so that Q-Town is all together, so that real names are all together. Like, we'll do that. All right. Prime Bright, the sponsor of Snatches League Season 2, and good friend of the show. Ryan Burke, named after the street I grew up on. Karatex Lee, the King of Questions. Koi Ray, coming all the way from Japan. Black Dahlia, my current alliance leader. Pyro Froze, hey Pyro. The Goat Seeker. Denman Falcon. Check him out on YouTube, please. Some of the best split content around. Archangel 3K. Quid Pro Joe. Doc D, the King of New Orleans Card Content. Fat Nick. Mr. Kerfuffle. Ginger Prime. Philip Rakovich. Ratko. Haplo. Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone. Rob Silverman. The Bizza. He's quite notorious, you know. Extras V and Skippy G. The one and only Tommy Nyquist, winner of Snatchers League Season 1. He's not supposed to be the one and only. That's Darth Tater, who came in second Snatchers League Season 1. The King of Bros, bruh. The Great Kazoo. I did that better the other day. Jessica Gamble, hey Jess. Woody, hey Woody. Kev C. Hoda. Luna Chris. U-Town. Quantum Quinn. John Q. Jimmy McHugh. Liam. 8th Sage. Mod Supreme Models. Darth Tater. Joe P., who's no Joe K. Steven. Brian Kaufman. Tristan Martin. And Jason P. Real Name Town. JT McDonaldino, check him out on Twitch, The Fuzzy Dunlop, Spectrumix, who, Matt H, TJ, Mikey, Hijinks, No Frickin' Flex, Ocularis, Mr. Craig Sterry, BG, Jonesy. Check out the Triple Threat, the Great Two Ties, my former Lance Leader, my friend Lauren Whatevs, the Pirate King Tuccrr, the Homie Min, and of course Gunny T, where the T stands for. We got a Pokemon video and a morning video. Can you watch them both? I think you should watch them both. Spend more time with me. If you enjoyed it and made it this far, I think you should continue to do so. Peace.